Hi, I'm Steve Chisholm, and we're going to be talking about something so important to events. It's one of the most important things. It's about sponsorships. Special guest is Hugh Vassos, who has spent many, many years, a whole lifetime, as a matter of fact, in the tourism industry. So establish for us, Hugh, your credentials.
I'm just a tourist. I just take trips. No, Steve, thanks so much. This is a lot of fun. Yes, I have spent a lot of time in the tourism industry. In the tourism industry, everybody's trying to figure out what's the magic ingredient, and from the perspective of tourism operators, there are a few key things that I think people in the business or wanting to go in the business need to know, and you're right, sponsorships is one of them.
Well, one of the things that you've done over the course of your years is you've been involved in small events. You've been involved in medium, and you've been involved in national and international events, ranging all the way up to the World Junior Hockey Championships on a number of occasions. And they're different, but they do have some similarities when it comes to sponsorships, doesn't it?
Absolutely. I learned long ago that events just don't go, if you don't have sponsors. And people didn't understand, way back when, just what the role of sponsors was or was supposed to be. And it's like, if we didn't have sponsors, we don't have an event. And you're right. There's from small to the big ones. You need to have sponsors to make things go.
Now, I would suggest to you, though, Hugh, that you have to understand what the sponsors are looking for, right? So, in your experience, what are sponsors looking for?
I sometimes don't like to call it sponsorships as much as I like to call it partnerships. And sponsors take on a key role in presenting an event. And the one thing that I've often thought about is if somebody like that, a sponsor, or is willing to part with their money, you should be willing to listen to them, when they come up with some ideas on how to run the event, right? And what they would like to see happen. So it's a two-way street. You just don't go out there and say, "Give us some money, please," and we'll run a good event. They want to be involved in the event. There's a reason why they're involved, and that's up to you or up to the organizer to figure out why are they involved. Why do they want to be involved in this thing?
And what are some of your past experiences?
I think the key has been, when you're out looking for sponsors, is you got to find the right match, from the event to the partner or the sponsor. What rings their bell? Like what makes them interested in what you've got to sell, and how do you bring them in as a sponsor, as a partner? And I think that's the magic button. Is how do you find that out? That's where you do your research and everything, and you just don't say they'd be a good sponsor. How do you know? You got to do a little research. You got to find out what have they sponsored in the past. What seems to work, for them. What do they want to be involved in? What kind of events do they want to be involved in? And then from your perspective, you want to say, how big a partnership do we want to do with these folks? Because there's different levels, as we know, Steve, on sponsorships. The small ones right up to the large ones. But in 99% of the cases that I've been involved in, the events I've been involved in, sponsors are involved. If it's going to go, if it's going to work, especially new events, you're going to see a sponsor somewhere riding along right behind them.
And new events are a whole different trick, because now you're trying to establish something that's never been done before, or maybe hasn't been done in your community before, and you have to bring in all these different ideas. So let's go back, though, to what a sponsor is looking for. Because obviously the event is looking for the support. They're looking for sometimes financial support, sometimes it's human resources. Because it doesn't just have to be money that you get from a sponsor, is it?
No, not at all. And a lot of people, miss that button. It isn't always just cash. But and so people say, well, what else is there? And what else is there is gift in kind. I'll pick on the media, Steve. If you're putting on an event, you need the media to help you. You need the media to promote it. You need the media for advertising. You need the media to be involved in, getting you out in front of the public. The media plays an important role. And in some cases, that role is what we call gift in kind. It may not be cash, they're not giving you cash, but they're giving you the support from their on-air people or whatever, their reporters. And they want to be there right beside you when you're putting on the event. And they're the ones that ultimately make the event a success.
And I would suggest too that as a media member, when you are looking for what you're going to have your partners, because I do like the idea of partnership as opposed to sponsorship, is what's their sweet spot? What do they hope to get out of it? Sometimes you're hoping to get some recognition out of it. Literally, you're hoping to get advertising out of it. Sometimes you're hoping to get a positive association. Yes. A lot of organizations, what they want to do is they want to support the volunteers because that's good for them. And for other ones, it's good for their organization. There are some large corporations who want their people to get involved in events. So those are the type of things I would suggest you're looking for.
Oh, absolutely. And we've seen that on a number of occasions. And, I hearken back to when we Saskatchewan first hosted our first Grey Cup. We had never done that before. That was brand new to us. So what do they want? What do the media want? Well, the media were looking at this thing and saying, "Wow, here's a new opportunity for us." So there's something. All right, new opportunity, new exposure, new opportunity, like you said, to get our staff involved. Corporations are looking for new opportunities, and are you kidding? People when they put the first call out, for volunteers for the Grey Cup. I mean, people could hardly wait to volunteer for that, right?
Question for you. How far down the road do you go before you bring in a sponsor? Which is to say, how much leverage do you give to a sponsor? Did you want to go out to them with a package, or do you want to go to them with an idea and see if you can kind of meet in the middle on something that works?
Well, my philosophy is, when you first set up your initial presentations or your meetings, I think both sides know, they have an idea what they would like to see or what they'd like to get out of it. And that becomes an interesting game, if you will. But my thoughts on that, Steve, is that what you're really doing is you want to bring them in early. You don't want to bring them in at the end. You want to bring them in early. They all get good ideas. They got the ear of your audience. They can help you. So I'm a firm believer in bring them in as early as you can, and find out where they can help you, and then build a plan. Accordingly. Do you give them a package, a cut and dried package? I'd say no. I think what you want to do is you want to sit down with them and see what could we do, to entice them to come in and get involved in this. And usually they have something in mind that they'd like, and it's not package A, B, C, D. It's package A, B, C, D.
Do you have a criteria for when you go looking for sponsors? Like, are there specific things that you might be looking for?
Yeah, I think, Steve, you gotta have that right match, for a sponsor in your event. Is somebody interested in sports? Is one of the sponsor interested in sports? If they're not, and you're trying to get a sponsorship for a football game or a Vanier Cup or whatever, you're probably barking up the wrong tree. If you're looking at something that's more let's say cultural, not that football isn't, don't get me wrong, but if something leaning more the other way, then you got to look at, do I have the right offering for them? And it won't take you long. They'll tell you, that's not quite what we had in mind. But sports is one that can attract a lot of interest from a lot of different groups and a lot of different businesses, simply because of the nature of the sport.
So flexibility would be the key too. Able to pivot if a sponsor says that they're not interested in this, but you should always have something in your back pocket.
Absolutely, and they may know somebody, or they may have a relationship with a company that could slip in and and take over that position. So yeah, you got to have the right fit. You can't go out there and push something that's not sellable to them, but you want to. That's what I'm saying. You want to get them involved early so that you're building the package with them. The most interesting one that I remember, and I'll use them as an example, BHP. When BHP first moved into Saskatchewan, they looked at it as saying, we'd like to get some exposure. We're just new to Saskatchewan and that sort of thing. And the World Juniors was an interesting product for them. They wanted that product, and we knew it. So we sat down with them and said, this is what we've got. Are you interested in this? And they said, yes, we are. And so the exposure, brand new product, they're introducing themselves to Saskatchewan. Nothing but positive public relations for them. Another reason why companies get involved. BHP presented the Hockey Fest, Family Hockey Fest. They brought in people and exhibits and displays and all that. They really dug in and made that event a huge success.
So let's say we're talking about a small event in somewhere in rural Saskatchewan, a small town event, and so you might get maybe 500 people, and they're going to be the same 500 people over and over and over again. What sort of exposure do you promise a certain exposure to a prospective sponsor? Is there a way that you can check on the fulfillment of it? Like, are there metrics that you tend to go with?
You'll find out pretty quick. Yes, there are metrics, and I say you bring your partners in real close. They sit right beside you, and you when you're having your meetings and you're talking about planning something, and you look over and you say, "What do you think?" That goes a long way. Sponsorship isn't about just write us a check and we'll tell you how we do. No, that's not the way it works. The way it works is that they write a check maybe, but they want to be with you, working with you, and telling you this is what we think that we can do to help you out. And by the way, I mean, sponsors, whether they're small or they're the large ones like a BHP, they got some pretty good people, very smart people that have got some great credentials in the industry that can help you out. So why not take advantage of their knowledge and that sort of thing, and thank them and have them involved right from the start to the finish. And when the event is on, and we're talking fulfillment of what we promised me as the out there selling the sponsorship. We promised you this, and this. I better do my homework and check at the end of every meeting or end of every step, did we deliver? How are we doing? Ask them.
Do you keep a checklist?
Absolutely.
All right, of all the things, and as the fulfillment goes off, check it off.
Absolutely.
Over deliver?
I'm not going to say over deliver. I am going to say deliver. You got to make sure that you're. I don't know if it's over deliver because you should be delivering anyway. But I think that the more you can build a team, to put on an event, the better off you are.
All right. So now you have to get to the right people. Yep. The people that can say yes. How do you get to the people that can say yes?
That's a really good question, because one guy that I learned a lot from in my younger days was Wild Bill Hunter. And Wild Bill Hunter always told me, he says, Hugh, you got to get to the person who makes the decisions. You can't deal with people who aren't at the top, or they can't give you an answer. You got to get to the right people to make the right decisions. And he was right. There's no question. So you have to be able to identify, this is the guy I have, or this is the gal I have to speak to, or whatever. This is the group I have to speak to, and you have to know how to approach them, and then finally, how do you make the call? You have to have a strategy in place on how you make your ask, and you go after. It takes a little bit of guts to go after somebody and say, this is what we're offering you, and it's a $100,000 sponsorship. Are you interested? But you know what? It's no different for somebody in small town Saskatchewan as it is for people in larger cities in Saskatchewan. In fact, when you look at what BHP, I suggest, as an example, I suggest that you take a look at their interest in helping out people all over Saskatchewan. And those are people you want to be involved in.
back to getting to the right person, any techniques you have, because you don't want to just flood emails to a company or just call the main receptionist and say, so what do you do?
My philosophy has always been, and it's worked fairly good, build relationships first. You don't want to just sit down with somebody right off the bat and say, you know, we need you as a financial contributor to this event, without knowing anything about them personally, without knowing anything about their company, knowing anything about their philosophy as a company. You know, what do they want to achieve? It's important that you learn to understand who they are, what's important to them, and what makes them interested in being involved with you.
All right, let's delve into what makes a sponsorship committee. Right? What sort of skills are you looking for when you get together a group of people that you're going to go out and you're going to get some sponsorships for this event?
Steve, I think the key thing is you need key people on your committee. You need a chairperson, you know, who's a driver, who's got the vision, who's got the plan, who can implement the plan and everything, just no different than a CEO. And you need that person who can then build his or her team, you know, to make that dream a reality. And they look at, okay, I need somebody that knows something about, you know, hospitality. Well, we better talk to the good folks at Tourism Saskatchewan, you know, about hospitality. What do we need, you know, to make people feel like they're welcome? How do we invite people, you know, to Saskatchewan? How do we use all the resources out there to make people want to come in? But we have a key person, a leader in each one of those areas. Sponsorship. We need somebody who's well connected in a community, somebody who could talk to just about anybody. Well, I will say, can talk to anybody, can meet with the politicians, can meet with the business people, can, you know, do all of those things. You don't want anybody. Sponsorship is not a place for somebody who's shy. It's for somebody who's aggressive, right? But then you need people who are very well organized, people who can help you set up committees and you know, that type of thing. So there is different slots for key people throughout, you know, an organizing committee, that everybody has their role to play, and everybody together working together. It's magic. When you get the right committee, it's magic.
Now, if I can say, one of the roles that I think is overlooked, unfortunately, a lot of time with sponsorship teams are the doers. The people who actually move the boxes from one place to another, the ones who take the packages out, the ones who make sure the sponsorship fulfillment occurs. It's one thing to have the big ideas, it's one thing to have the people with the connections, but you need somebody to go in and say, will you sign the deal?
Absolutely. Yeah, you need that person who can push the envelope, identify the target. When the time is right, that person identify the person who's right to make that pitch. I don't think it's any secret, but you know, we always like to think that you sig somebody on somebody they know. Mm-hmm. Who knows this guy, or who knows that gal? You know, who's got an in with that company or whatever. And you'll always find somebody who says, hey, you know what, I worked for that company for a number of years. I think I know who's the shakers and movers there. And those are the people that you want to send.
So let's talk about events. Are there any particular events that you found that are easier to get sponsorships for? Obviously, you want to believe in whatever event it is that you're working with.
More so than anything. More important than anything. You really have to believe in the event. Because if you don't, if you're just out there saying, "Oh, this is just another event," it's going to go nowhere. You have to be the salesperson for the event. You have to be proud of it. You know, for me, the challenge has always been, I always wanted to be involved with the events that we may have never hosted before in Saskatchewan. The Vanier Cups, you know, like we did in Saskatoon. The Grey Cup, You know, it's been a long time since World Juniors was held here, you know, and that sort of thing. So that's always been the challenge, is why not us? And I'll give you an example of one that, you know, is still one of my favorite, is the Vanier Cup. Vanier Cup was never hosted in west of Toronto. I couldn't believe that. When I first heard that, I said, that's the event we're going after, because never hosted west of Toronto. Give me a break. So that's what, you know, for me, that's the driving force. That's what I wanted to go and get. There are a million of those, and you know, there's all kinds of events like that. And I want to just say something here for people living in small towns. Small town Saskatchewan has got all kinds of things to offer. I remember one time I was speaking at a meeting, a tourism meeting in a small town, and I'm telling everybody how great tourism is, and I remember some person put up their hand at the back and said, yeah, but you know, we don't have anything to offer for tourism. We don't have the Rocky Mountains, and we don't have the ocean, and we don't have the West Edmonton Mall. Yeah. You know, and I said, yeah, but what we've got is we got some people living in this province, a lot of people who know how to get things done. We got a stronger work ethic than I think anywhere else in Canada. We're all good old hard-working farm boys and girls, and we're all from small towns, and we don't listen to people that say you can't do it. We know we can do it, and then all it takes is for us to put together a team, right, again, of the right people to make it work. And that's what really drives me, is I think there's a million things out there that we could do. In small towns, somebody said, well, we don't have all those things that, you know, can draw people. I said, yeah, but just a minute. Do you have people that curl? Yeah. Do you have people that, you know, can knit? You know, quilting festivals. I remember one time I heard about these guys that were hang gliding, and I phoned them up and I said, where do you guys hang glide? And they said, down in the Capel Valley. And they said, do you want to come out? And I said, yeah, absolutely. So I went out because I wanted to see this hang gliding. I said, we got to bring you guys in here. And they said, Saskatchewan is perfect for hang gliding. And I said, really? And they said, yeah, come on, I'll take you up. And I said, no, that's fine. I'll go so far. But you know, they told us that we're the perfect location for hang gliding. So you know what? I got involved with them, and we started up. You know, every year they had a hang gliding tournament, right? That's how you get things going. Somebody gets an idea, and boy, oh boy, you know, it just takes off. So there are a million ideas out there.
And you know, you're right. You focus on what you have as opposed to what you don't have. For example, we've got a kite festival down in Swift Current. Well, there's no shortage of wind in Swift Current. It's naturally built in. It's a nice flat area. Absolutely. It turns out to be a great festival.
Absolutely. One of the things that coming from a small town, I'm going to put a plug in for my old hometown, Melville. And, you know, and I thought, you know, Melville's a railroad town. Every time you talked about Melville, people say, oh, that's the home of the millionaires, obviously, everybody but me. But it's also a railroad town. And so I said, you know what this community needs is needs an event, you know, that they can rally around. So I said, I'm going to start the Melville Model Railroad event, you know. And they said, what a great idea. So we put the call out in the papers and the media and all that kind of stuff. And we attracted we filled the Melville Arena with model railways all the way around the whole ice surface. It was phenomenal. And, you know, I think that festival is still going. But, you know, there's just, a germ of an idea. And, you know, you're saying it's good. You need the doers, but you also need the people who will make it happen. And that's important, is you need somebody who's got the dream, who's got the vision, and can bring other people in and help them build it. But tourism can happen, events can happen in any town, any city in Saskatchewan.
Now, sometimes we're talking about events that don't exist and we're just creating them. And I also think there's some value too in trying. Sometimes your event may not take off, and it may not, but there's no harm in trying. And you know what? You'll be better the next time you try.
Absolutely, right? Absolutely, Steve. And the other thing is, you're giving people something to do. And somebody used to tell me, and I think it was my dad, was pride of ownership. Take some pride in what you're doing. Take some pride in your city. Everybody should be, you know how they have that Citizen of the Year? Everybody should be going out trying to win that Citizen of the Year award. You got to take pride in your community. And if you can do something to get an event going, a festival, and you can get the right people to help you, you know, you can bring in guys like me that got some ideas to help you. That's important. That's pride in where you live. And pride in where you live, where you work, where you play, is so important, I think, you know, to the growth of Saskatchewan and all our small towns. And
how do you decide what you're going to sell as a sponsorship? Like, how do you break down? You take a look at an event and then you say, okay, we can get sponsors for this and this and this and this. How do you make that determination?
Well, it's a wish list. It's a need list. You know, when you're planning an event, you got to look at all the things. What do we need, you know, to make this thing work? We need facilities. We need media. We need cash. We need, you know, prize money. You know, the list goes, and pretty soon you end up with a hit list and a wish list, and then that's how you start looking at, okay, who would be good to be that sponsor? Who could we go to support our event by providing chairs and tables and you know, stages and all that kind of stuff? You know, what about entertainment? What about this? You know, and it pretty soon, Steve, it all fits together, and you come up with a list of a hit list of who we're going after, you know, to get involved. But again, you bring them in as their partner, not just somebody that's giving you cash.
Is it more advantageous to start with a title sponsor or to start with smaller sponsors and then encourage a title sponsor to come on because you have all these other smaller sponsors? Or is it better to get a title sponsor which encourages smaller sponsors to come on?
I don't think there's any rule of thumb there. I think that, you know, somebody used to tell me, you know, look after the nickels and dimes, right, and the dollars will follow, which means you look after the small guys, the small sponsors, and the big ones will follow, which is true. And it's contagious. Running an event is contagious. I remember, you know, some of the events that I've been involved in, we ended up with so many people involved that everybody wanted to be involved. Hey, my neighbor is involved in that. How do I get involved? You know, Briars that we put on, you know, in the World Juniors. People are clamoring for us to host another World Juniors. They should just give us the World Juniors. I keep telling them that. There's no need to go anywhere else, you guys. You know already who hosts the best World Juniors, and that's us. You know, but that's what Saskatchewan is all about. We do things better than a lot of other places, especially big cities. Like I just love when we're bidding for events against Toronto and Vancouver and Edmonton, Calgary, and all that. And there was nothing gave me more of a thrill than when, you know, I was involved in the bid for the World Juniors the last time, and we beat out the big cities. I never forget it. It was in Toronto, and after the presentation, all the other cities that bid were much larger than us, including Toronto. You know, and the media grabbed a hold of them and were doing interviews over in the corner. Nobody came into our room to ask us for an interview. So I said, "Isn't this funny? Watch this." So I walked in the room and I said, "What time is my interview?" The media guys went, "Oh, where are you? Who are you?" I said, "Well, we're from Saskatchewan and we're going to win this." And they said, "Come on in." So we sat down and I pumped it up, and I was so confident that we were going to win it, and we did. Nice. And that was one of the best feelings I've ever had in my life, was when I went in and I said, "What time is our interview?" They didn't know what to say.
Now, with an event like that, and I think of the 07 Junos, the value of other events around the main event. For example, I know in the Junos, we went on a road trip and we took some artists and they performed down in Yorkton, and there was at the mall in Melfort and at the Rotunda in Regina, and we drove all over Saskatchewan in these trucks just out promoting it, but
Yeah.
there were those events, and then there were the party events that went along. It wasn't just about the Junos.
No. More, much more than that. And you know, if you pay attention to events now, they just about all the good ones say much more than, you know, we're more than, and that's right, because these things have spin-offs, right? And an event will attract a whole new audience. You know, it attracts people that newcomers, you know, and that sort of thing, that are familiar with some things, but not with everything that we're doing. So you're absolutely right, Steve. I remember that we were driving all over Saskatchewan we had some guys from bands and all that sort of thing that we said, look who's with us. You know, look who's sitting beside us, and people thought that was great that we were going out to the rural communities and trying to get them involved. And there was all kinds of neat things going on. So I like to think that we're very creative and very innovative when it comes to making an event bigger than what it really is.
And you bring up an interesting point too about the changing culture of Saskatchewan and Canada just in general, because the time is here where you could have an event, a football event, for example, and maybe you would introduce the sport of cricket as a sidelight, bringing in not only a whole bunch of other people involvement, but other opportunities for sponsorships.
And I think that's important. That's important for us, all of us, you know, involved in events, that we promote the events for, maybe we don't know how big they are, but some other people say, hey, listen, we played cricket, or, you know, can we play in this in that event? Can we bring our event in, you know, as part of it? And for sure, that's a grows events. By the way, the way I look at it, and I don't know if I made myself clear here or not, but the way tourism is such an exciting industry. I keep going back to it. But where does it start? It starts from ideas like events. You know, that's where we can you know, get our start. One event can lead to another event, can lead to another event, you know, and that kind of stuff. So it's just being creative enough to come up with all these events, and that draws more and more people in. It attracts more and more people to these communities, to live in these communities. You know, you don't want to live somewhere where there's nothing to do. And you know, it's like Cheers, where you want to live where everybody knows your name, right? And exactly. And that sort of thing. So you're absolutely right. Events spur on new events, and it's all about growth, and it's the growth of our cities and our growth of our province, and makes us proud that we're involved. That's why we all wear the jackets that we pay for, with the logos, and you know, where else do you see that? You don't see it anywhere else but here in Saskatchewan.
So would you suggest then, sit down, take a look around at your city, take a look around at your town. What do you got? What can you promote? What will people come to see? Because tourists are looking for things to see. They're looking for places to go. They're looking for experiences to have.
Back in the day, I was on a board of directors with the Rough Riders. And remember when Sacramento gold miners came in the league?
I do remember.
Sacramento gold miners I happened to be down in California on tourism business, and I said, you know, I'm going to take a trip over to Sacramento. And I'm going to visit the Sacramento gold miners. It's a fan club. Mm-hmm. So I set the meeting up and everything, and they said, who's this and what? And I said, well, you know, I'm involved in tourism, and I'm involved with the Rough Riders. And they said, you're the first guy to welcome us to the CFL. And I said, really? And said, nobody else has flown up here or come to say, you know, hi, how you doing? Welcome to the league or anything. And I sat down and I said, okay, you have 2 games that you play in Saskatchewan. Where's Saskatchewan? So I told them where's Saskatchewan. I showed them the map. And I said, how do you guys fly? Oh, we can fly with the team. And I said, really? So you have excess seats? Yeah, sure. I said, well, why don't you guys, the fan club, why don't you bring fans to Saskatchewan, and we'll set up a tour of Saskatchewan for you when you're up here. And they said, or down here, I guess, wherever it is. And they said, that sounds like a great time. So we took them to Great Western Brewing, and we took them to Manitou Beach, and we took them, you know, they had a ball. They all flew up here. They did it twice. And they thought it was just spectacular. They said, nobody else has done that except you guys. That's a Saskatchewan mentality.
It's all about people, and Saskatchewan have the friendliest.
Friendly, absolutely. So one of the things that we did is we took 100 cases of Great West beer. It was a Rider Pride beer. Remember that beer that came out then? We took 100 cases of beer with us down to their Sacramento for their football game. We pitched a tent. We promoting, you know, come back to Saskatchewan. And these are some of the things that you can see. We brought them up. The games happened to be when there was events going on in Saskatchewan. So NBC Sports came over and interviewed us and said, "What are you guys doing here?" So we told them that, you know, we want people to come back to see Saskatchewan. We're so excited about our province. And so we did 2 days of interviews with the media and everything. And the coup de grace was going to be, at the end of it all, at the football game, after we handed out all this free beer, during the football game, I went out to center field and I said, "Okay, Sacramento, it's up to you now. When I say, hey, Sacramento, can you say Saskatchewan? I want you to say Saskatchewan. Holler it out," right? So I'm on this microphone saying this. So everybody, I said, "Are you all ready?" "Yeah." So I said, "Hey, Sacramento, can you say Saskatchewan?" And 17,000 people said, "No." It was hilarious. But they all after all that free, said no. But they came over and they said, every one of them thanked us for organizing events for them up here in Saskatchewan when they came back, you know, to see the football game. And they saw 2 games. It was phenomenal. And it really gave us a sense of accomplishment and showed, we wanted to show people, we were so excited, we wanted to show people how we put on events, right?
So, Hugh,
Yep.
appreciate your time and your expertise in this, and for people putting on special events. Any final advice? Any words of wisdom?
And it would never be final advice from me. But if there was ever any advice from me, it would be, we can do it. Don't be afraid of trying. Like you said, don't be afraid of trying. It may not be a huge success the first time around, but we'll get there. But I think I would like to kind of challenge, if I can, every community in Saskatchewan to think about what could they do for special events. What event could they hang on their door that said that we're famous for this? There's got to be something. There's got to be an event that they can do that's better than anybody else.
How many years do you give an event before you might decide whether or not this thing is going? Because you can't expect in first year. Rarely are first year events wildly successful. Sometimes. But how many years do you give before you say, maybe this isn't working out the way we thought it would?
Oh, you'll know. You know, you'll know if the thing has lost its luster. I'll turn around and I know we were talking about this earlier, but BHP, the Enchanted Forest. Enchanted Forest just wrapped up 25 years. No sign of, just 25th anniversary. No sign of slowing down. In fact, getting bigger every year. But you know what I mean? You sometimes you don't know. But you do know when it's got legs and it's still growing. And it's important that the organizers for the BHP Enchanted Forest look after that event. Look after BHP as a title sponsor, and look after 75 other sponsors who are clamoring, you know, to get their sponsorship again this coming year. So you have to look after your event. Do whatever you can to make it grow, and your community is going to be better off for it. So I think that's important, Steve. But in terms of how many years do you give it? Yeah, it'll take a while to get growing. You know, there's no question. But if it's got good people behind it, if it's got good sponsors behind it, it'll grow. And
I only say that because I'm sad when I see people give up too early, because it can be discouraging. It's hard work. Events are hard work. Getting sponsorships is a certain knack, but I'll tell you what, events lead to tourists. Tourists lead to money in the economy. Events are fun to host. Sponsorships, great opportunity for businesses to get involved in what's going on in their community. So it may potentially be the best win-win-win-win-win situation that we know. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely.
Hugh Vassos, thanks for your expertise. Appreciate it.